everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Buttercupp at Home. This is such a fun episode. We're sitting down with Christiana from Splash, longtime friend, similar industries that we're in, and it's so excited to get to highlight her. She's in Moline, Illinois, and thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so
excited
cool.
to be here.
I know, it's so great. So I can remember just us getting our stocking stuffers down your store.
Well, I can remember before that. So we actually went to church together, and I can still remember I was standing on the steps with you because I'm so interested when anybody is launching a new business. And we were standing outside, and you said you were getting ready to start a new business with bath bombs. And I was like, bath bombs, like the actual bath. I was like, that can be a business? Like, I had no idea because Carter, when he was in 6th grade, he started a little bath bomb business at school, and we helped him set it all up. I was like, adults buy bath bombs? That's amazing. Like, I was just blown away. And so I was so excited for you.
It's a huge industry.
I just was oblivious. Yeah. So I was so excited for you. So tell us, you were kind of saying you did things a little bit backwards. So tell us, first of all, like, what made you even think to do bath bombs?
Well, yeah, I'll give you a little backstory because before you got here, we were talking about careers and different career paths. So before we were business owners, I was an addictions counselor. And so I worked in addictions treatment at a couple of different places. And at that time, my kids were getting to an age, they were like junior high, late elementary school, playing travel ball, super busy. And so when I decided that I was going to do this business, a lot of people that do what I do, that make soaps and beauty products and things like that, are usually at farmers markets or pop-ups or in other people's stores. They don't have a retail storefront. And so I had absolutely zero idea of what I was getting into. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to open a bath bomb store.
Entrepreneur's journey is the same way.
Exactly. And so I look back now, 6 years, and I'm like, I had no business starting this business, when I started. And so part of what we did, I was burned out on counseling. I was working for my husband's business, and he was like, I'll pay you what you're getting paid now as a counselor to work for my business because I need you. And I'm like, done. Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah. And I was having some health issues. So I was like, this is great. I'll be able to be there for the boys, like all of their activities and things like that. Awesome. And so I kind of started that, working from home for his business. And then we were looking at ways to diversify. Always, you get the entrepreneurial bug and you're thinking, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And so we found this I listened to the Brick and Mortar podcast. And so we started in that same area, the Shops on 2nd. And it was a tiny little, it was probably 400 square feet,
the
tiniest,
one,
tiny.
Right? Yeah, it was so cute.
Tiny little spot. And it was very reasonable, and it included internet and everything. And I was like, oh, we could do this. Yeah, I can start a business, And so we just kind of jumped. I'm an all-in kind of person. So we were all in. We just did it.
But when you were there, that was just you, right? Because
Yes.
Tell us what your husband does too, so they know what we're referring to.
Okay, so he is Professor Thaddeus, which is, he actually was a 25-year smoker and quit through vaping. And that was many years ago. Now you see a lot of vape shops, but there were none at the time. It was all like just online. He was the first one. And so he was able to quit smoking by doing that. And so his business started accidentally. It was total accident because he was just telling people, oh my gosh, this worked for me. Like, he just really wanted to help people quit smoking. He was like, nothing else helped me, this is what I want to do. So that's how his business started. And then as that grew, I started working for him. Then he quit his teaching job. And so now we have both of the businesses.
But he was in a different location, right? So he was somewhere, and then you decided to do the one downtown Rock Island.
Correct.
So you had two different locations.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we did everything from our house. Yeah. So I was making bath bombs in the basement, with like shoddy lighting, and I'm trying to be organized, and there's stuff everywhere, along with baseball equipment and Christmas decorations, and it was just chaos. Yep. And so because that store in Rock Island was so small, we were there about a year and a half, and as things started to progress, I'm like, we need a bigger space. And so that was when we found the space in Moline, which used to be Artsy Bug. And so they had this great setup already.
Oh, nice.
And so I was able to easily transition to that and have a space to make everything. And then we got all of our businesses out of our house, which was great.
Isn't that an amazing
So it was a
feeling?
wonderful day when that happened. So
Yes, because I'm like, because when do you relax when your business is in your house? I'm like, gosh, I should be making soap right now, but I really want to sit.
It's 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
I have an order to go out, but I really want to just veg out.
Right.
I'll go eat supper and then I'll go finish that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's never ending. So that was a huge game changer for us to get our business out of our home and into, a retail
Yeah. So what
store.
year was that you guys moved into that building?
We have been there 4.5 years. So we started June of 2017. We moved there 2019, fall of
Awesome. Yeah.
So how
winter.
did you get the word out? So like I remember thinking people want to buy bath bombs. Like you can do a whole entire business based on bath bombs. How did you who did you target or how did you kind of build that customer base to show people like, no, these are great bath bombs?
Yeah,
Like
good
how did you do
question.
that? Yeah.
Good question. I mean, some days I still feel like I am doing that because we'll get somebody walking in, they're like, oh my gosh, this place is so cute. How long have you been here? I'm like, 4.5 years. They're like, what? I got stopped by the train,
my
and
gosh.
just looked over and saw
Yeah.
your bubbles, And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
So some of it happens accidentally, but obviously I started with family and friends. So it was this big push of, and I had worked so many jobs and, we're both from the Quad Cities essentially. So it was really, let's get the word out with family and friends. And then after that, it was like, tell your friends, you know?
Yeah.
And we still say, we are literally a mom and pop business. We have one part-time employee aside from us. We're a micro business. And so, we don't spend money on advertising. I'm like, a lot of it is word of mouth. And so that's really how it started. And then to get people in the door, I think of all the things I've done over the years. I was thinking, on the way here. So when we moved to Moline from Rock Island, I was like, okay, people were coming to us in Rock Island. How are they going to find us in Moline? And so for a year, almost every month, I worked with a nonprofit locally and would pick just somebody local, like the Child Abuse Council or the Milan Animal Welfare Center, different nonprofits. And I offered a bath bomb making class. And so,
awesome. Yeah.
so that way that, nonprofit would promote it and I would sell up to 20 tickets and they would pay ahead of time. And then I would donate a portion of the sales from the class and then also a portion of the sales that night. So they would come in, make the bath bombs, and then people always shopped.
Yep.
And so that was,
awesome.
a way just to get people to know that we were there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was great. Sometimes I was full and had 20 people and I'm like, how do I teach 20 people at once to make bath bombs that are super temperamental?
Right.
And I'm never doing that again. And then also other times, there'd be like 2 people that signed up and I'm like,
They hate bath bombs.
they hate bath bombs. Bath bombs aren't a thing anymore, so it was the whole gamut of this is great. And then I could donate like a big chunk of money and I was all excited. I got this big check and I was like, yeah, we're doing this, so that
Did you
was
still do
one of the
that?
ways. I have not, and then COVID hit shortly after that.
Right.
And then we couldn't gather
Yeah.
and things like that. And I always did them at night after hours.
Yeah.
And so I have not done one for a long time. During that time, I also did like birthday parties, but I was like, they have to be 10 and older because, I'm not going to have like 15 5-year-olds trying to make bath bombs. I'm like, no. So you learn as you go,
for sure.
So I haven't brought that back. I have had people ask me to bring it back.
That's
so.
a really smart. I've not heard of anyone doing that. That's that's great.
It's
So
interesting.
it was
That's kind
fun.
of that trend. You hear that a lot with people that, I did this before COVID and now I'm working towards getting back to that. Like, I think that's what Brick and Mortar, on their podcast, they kind of talk through that too, that it's just hard to
Because we've been pivoting.
It's like,
Yes.
we can do this now. It's okay to do this. Like, I just
Yes.
took my kids to a concert, and as we were walking in, I'm like, isn't this crazy that we thought like we wouldn't be
We
able
would
to,
never
maybe
do this
not
again.
be able to do this
Yes.
again. And so it's just
Yes.
so interesting. So at your store, there's so much more than just bath bombs that you have. I
Yes.
love watching your videos of when you make soap, and you make
All
the
of your videos.
coolest
Yes.
soaps. And so how did you transition with bath bombs into the other things you make?
So, well, just starting out, I didn't mention this because I was a counselor, and for so long I was preaching like self-care. You need to do yoga. You need to do this, and here I'm like working myself to the bone and getting burned out, and not practicing what I was preaching.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how Splash got started, was a way to offer self-care products, because I was like, there's nothing really like this in the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
And I honestly hadn't even heard of the big brand Lush, and people would come in and they'd be like, "Oh, you're like the local Lush," and I'm like, "What's Lush?" Like I had no idea, and
Right.
so
Well, we don't have anyone anywhere near here. So.
right,
Yeah.
and so it was kind of funny. I was clueless about that, because we didn't have one here.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I started, as a way to offer self-care products, because after I left counseling and I had my own health issues I was dealing with, I had to slow way down, and I had to learn to take time just to relax and rest, because my personality is the all-in type.
I get it.
And my health was starting to suffer. And so Splash was a way, and I'm like, but people shouldn't have to, it shouldn't only be available for people that have a lot of money, right? And so I really wanted it to be something that people could gift. So I'm like, okay, let's make it fun. Why does it have to be boring?
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Why can't it be fun and also still be good for you? And so that was kind of how we pivoted. So we started the bath bombs, and the thing I hated in the beginning, I loved making the bath bombs. They were so fun. I was like, this is so fun. This is cool. And I hated making soap. I was like, this is the worst. Now it's totally flip-flopped. I love making soaps. I love coming up with new designs, and bath bombs can be very temperamental.
Yes.
If it's rainy, if it's humid, they're all water activated.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll make a bath bomb and I'll come in the next day and they'll be flat. And I'm like,
I worked so hard.
I know. I'm like, they look so good yesterday. Or they'll activate if they get too much moisture. So then they'll start fizzing and cracking. So they're very temperamental. So now I'm like, I hate bath bombs, and and now I like making soap. But
People ask us for bath bombs, and I'm like, I know where you can get
Yeah.
some really
Really
good ones.
Yeah.
I would not recommend getting into that business.
Yeah.
No.
And then I follow, these other bath bomb makers, and I see like, oh, I thought I was going to be super productive today, and here's my big pile of bath bomb mix.
Right.
So, but that was another pivot. So then I had all these bath bombs that weren't working, or I had leftover mix that I didn't have enough to make a bath bomb. So we started making bath sprinkles and putting them
that's
crushed
awesome.
up in a bag.
Kinda,
and people
yeah.
are like, oh, that's so cool. We love the bath sprinkles.
You're like,
I'm
this is all we do now.
I'm like, this is awesome. I can just put it in a bag and people buy it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Garbage.
this
No,
is
no,
great.
not garbage,
Yeah.
not garbage. Leftovers.
I know. And I'm like, I don't like to waste anything
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
I
in the
love that.
beginning, I'm making bath bombs and I have like a handful left. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just throw it down the drain,
Yeah.
So this was a way for me to like keep it. So I have like this big bowl of bath sprinkles now.
That's
so,
awesome. And
So you
people
just
like that when you're
think of it.
you're being resourceful and they feel like they're saving something.
Yep,
Like they like
exactly.
That. Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
it's great with your story too, that like you were saying, moving from counseling, then going into being an entrepreneur, and you were already wired that way. It's just you kind of stumble into that, like, oh, I'm already all in what I'm doing.
Yep.
But then it's out of your own experience and need that you meet the needs of other people, which is so great. They're like, hey, I'm running too hard, so I need to figure out how to adjust this. And that story, that's just great for people listening to this now, but also it's just like a lot of times what we do is we meet our own pain points, and answer our own pain points, and that's just the genuineness of your business, and you and
Right.
Thad both, but of just like, we can meet this need. So when you were going through that, and thought, okay, I got these health issues, I need to slow down. And how did that come out in like you talk about the different products you make. What was that journey like, just mentally, to figuring out maybe your schedule, how to scale? What was that process like?
Well, I have to be honest, I still struggle
Yeah,
with this
we do too.
because of
Yeah, we do
my
too.
personality. And
Yeah.
we were just talking about a post I did yesterday. So in October, we decided to be closed on Mondays because I was like, I need a day.
Yeah.
I did a pop-up Saturday, and I have to take everything out of not everything, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work to do those. And you guys do so many of them. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. Like, I don't know how you do it. So it's
I'm
exhausting.
complaining the whole time, just so you know. I am salty
And it's like
grouchy.
100 degrees
Yes.
and I'm lugging tables and I'm
Yeah.
like, why did I think this was going to be fun again?
Yeah.
I'm
more wired for that than
right.
than Jennifer.
And so for me, it's still, I think I always have to think back to why did I start this?
Yeah.
What was my mission?
Yeah.
And try to stay true to that. And so even when, I tend to be a people pleaser too. So in the beginning, people would be like, you should do this pop-up. You should do the farmer's market. You should.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll do all of it. Yeah, we'll do that. Or people are like, can you come? I went and did a bath bomb making class at Modern Woodman once with like 50 kids.
Oh,
and they had
gosh.
all these tables. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I get there and I'm like,
This was a bad choice.
why am I doing this? And then I just have to remind myself, like, why did you start this? And you have to keep that in check. You have to keep that in balance. So closing on Mondays, while scary at the time because we've always been open on Mondays, I was like, I need this.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple times I would like go into work on Mondays and I'm like, just stop it. Like
It'll be
need
here tomorrow.
to do something intentional.
Yeah.
So yesterday with my son, we went to Westlake and did stand-up paddleboarding. And I'm like,
Awesome.
just to like take myself out of
Yep.
that mindset and just quiet my mind a little bit, get
Yeah.
refreshed, refocus. And so
Well, and something else we were talking about too is you said, but I was still thinking about things. And
Right.
one thing, so he and I did a really crazy thing this year. We decided to do a market in Wisconsin, and it's a weekly market, which is bananas. But it's 10
Thanks,
hours.
Casey.
I know, right?
Exactly.
But
That'd be great. So
it's
awesome.
10 hours of drive time. So
Okay.
for us to be in the car for 10 hours uninterrupted. And so even though we're working, we're still getting away. And I
been
think
a
that,
connector.
well, but also your brain is quiet. And so you are able to kind of process and think about new ideas that when you're in the middle of making things and you're running so fast, like you
can't
can't
do
stop
that.
to process like what's next. So even though you're taking a break, you feel bad because you're like, I shouldn't even be thinking about work. But I really think that that's when those ideas, some of our
Yes.
best ideas come to us when
Car
we're
rides.
That
our
is
ride's
so
not
true.
working,
Yeah.
because your brain is able to process. So
Exactly.
you need that time, even if you are
it
working a
feels
little
selfish
bit.
a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm like,
Yeah.
it's still productive, in a way.
It makes you
and-
so productive.
And your mind and your body they really do tell you when you need to just chill out. And really, like, I was so looking forward to taking my kids to see Dave Matthews, and it was just my kids, and, and went up there, and then we kind of schlepped our way back on Sunday. But then also for me, it's like those late nights sitting outside, it's all quiet, just calming my brain. But that's so great. I mean, you just have to, and so kudos to you for.
Well, and so speaking
being
of
open on
that
Mondays.
self-care and everything, you also have kind of a therapy dog. Tell us about who lives at your shop.
And she is very therapeutic for me. So we have a shop dog named Vanya, and she's a Great Pyrenees. So she's massive.
Yes.
She actually looks bigger than she is, but she's 110 pounds. And
my God.
A lot of that is fluff.
I just love her.
But we originally, so when I was kind of going through like, my boys are going to be leaving soon, I kind of was like, oh, I need a companion. I have my husband,
Yeah.
but I needed,
That
somebody that's
motherly-
like a child,
yes.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that I could take care of.
Yeah.
And so we actually got her brother Vito first, and he passed unexpectedly at age 2.
Yeah.
The day after he died, we found out she was homeless. And so during COVID, I drove to Denver sight unseen and picked her up.
Awesome.
And she has been the most amazing dog. Like, so she comes into work with me every day. She was kind of bummed that I didn't bring her.
You should have.
Oh.
We would
I
have
didn't even
loved
Always
it.
think
welcome,
of
always
that,
welcome,
but
yeah.
she thinks if I leave the house, she's going with me, right?
yes.
Because
Clive.
Yes.
yeah, she's a working dog, so her dog is to greet,
Yeah.
her job is to greet customers, and so she takes that job very seriously. And you know, I always ask, "Are you okay with her coming out?" Because she has a big bark,
Yeah.
and she's a little intimidating. But I'm like, she really just wants to come sniff you. And
She's
like,
yelling at you to come
yes.
over.
That is what she's saying, because I have little gates where she has to stay back
Yeah.
behind the counter till she gets the okay, you know. So she's great. So a lot of people come in that work like downtown Moline. We have a whole group that walks every day on lunch. They
Oh,
stop
nice.
in and they all pet her at the same time, like
I
6
love
people. And she's like,
In heaven.
yeah. So if they ever walk by and don't stop in, she's like, oh, hey, you're supposed to come see me.
My friends.
Yes. So there are, you know, some of our regulars that she's really gotten to know. Like there's one gal that comes in probably every week and a half and brings her 2 cookies, like the dog
yeah,
cookies.
yeah.
And she knows her truck now. So when she pulls up on
my
the street,
Oh, isn't that the
her
best?
tail starts going. She gets so excited. So,
That is
and then,
hilarious.
yeah, people are like, oh, she's so great. So,
And then you're doing something with, what is it? Remind me again.
yeah,
the
with
humane-
King's Harvest.
King's Harvest,
so,
yes.
because she is a rescue dog, and we are kind of starting to get back to our pre-COVID thinking, like, oh, okay, how can we connect with the community? What can we do? I have a friend whose wife works at King's Harvest, and so I was like, it's Vanya's birthday. She's turning 5 in July, and so we are going to collect items that they need on their wish list, like cat food or litter or, you know, dog treats, stuff like that, for Vanya's birthday. And then if you bring the donation into us, then you'll be able to draw for a discount on your purchase. So
love
it
that.
could be anywhere from like
Awesome.
5 to 20% off your purchase.
Yeah.
So
Hasn't that been a fun thing? Because we've done some different things like that as well. And doesn't it just feel good to like
It does.
be able to participate in a bigger way in the community than if you're just like
Yes.
yourself? You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's just so fun to get your buyers, your
it
customers.
really
into that.
is. And I feel like it's a way for me to use my business for something good that's not just for me, but
Totally.
to be
Yeah.
a part of the community and to give back to the community, because it is where we live. It is our home, you
Yeah.
know, and you want to make it better. And you try to do that through your business. And so it's a way to reach a broader audience too, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always super appreciative of the people that are willing to participate in that, you know?
Yeah.
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 So
I mean, everybody likes dogs.
it's like we work
right?
together. So
Yeah, that's
So-
the neat thing about our community too. Just the businesses are very, you know, very supportive. It's a great network in this area that I just love.
yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, so what's next for you now? Because I mean, like you make, and everybody needs to go check out your social media because your
Yes.
videos of you make, like I watch all of them because I'm like, that's amazing. Like the detail in your bath bombs, like the
And the
painting that you
soaps are
do.
just so cool.
They're so
Yeah.
cool. So tell us
Thank
what's
you.
next for you. Like, what are you working on? Or, you know, what are you doing?
Well, I am enjoying this summer because
Yeah.
summer is always slower for us. And
Yeah.
so I am really trying to breathe a little bit. And I have, you know, personally outside of business, I have a senior in high school and a senior in college. So next year is going to be a big year.
Yeah.
So I'm really just kind of breathing right now,
Yeah.
keeping the store stocked. And then every now and then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do this fall? What are we going to do this
Yeah.
winter? Because that is really our bread and
I know
butter.
Christmas is
time.
coming, right?
Right. And so I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
Yeah.
And I've learned over the years, like what things sell. So I know I have some of my classic staples that I will definitely do. And then I always like to include something new in that. So it'll be coming up with some new content. So something we did last year, like a lot of my soaps are very labor intensive and a lot of work. So during the holiday season, it was stressing me out because, I make everything in small batches. So I would make
They're
like
works of art. I mean,
yeah,
they
they're
really
like
are.
20. I have like 24 soaps, and somebody comes in and buys 15, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to remake that. Like, no, can you just buy one? Like, good problem to have, right? But then, so my friend, one of my dear friends, last year, she said, Christiana, it's Christmas. You're busy. You need to make less fancy soaps at Christmas. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not think of that.
But I am the fancy soap girl.
I know. So I did, I can do picture soaps and literally put any logo or picture or meme on a soap. And they are much faster to make than a lot of my other soaps that have like whipped topping and, little
unicorns
things and whatever. So I did that last year, and that was a huge success. And so I think, work smarter, not harder, and trying to figure out, okay, during the holiday season, I cannot do the super fancy soap.
Right. Well, and there's a cure time with soap too, right?
Yes, yeah. So it has to sit.
Like think ahead.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then, my stuff, it does get a little tricky because especially during the holidays, a lot of what I use has like a high vanillin content, which turns things yellow and brown. And so I can't make it too far in advance. I still want it to look good. And so it puts the pressure on,
timing.
So timing, figuring all of that out.
And storage is an issue too.
Exactly.
We bump into that. It's like you can only make so much because where are you going to put it?
Exactly. Exactly. So balancing all of that. So as far as what's next, I think some of it is getting back to like the pre-COVID. Like I feel like this year, every year has been different. Like COVID hit and I had to figure, how am I going to keep my small business open? And so we did crazy things. Like I was like, I'm going to offer quarantine boxes.
We did that too.
I did.
Awesome.
And then, again, I'm used to doing small batches and people are like, I need 30 of those. And I'm like, what did I get myself into, And so again, good problem to have. But so we kind of got through that and I'm like, I only have stuff here to make like 10 boxes, So then I had to start ordering in bulk and then there was the shipping issues and you couldn't get ingredients and then certain ingredients, like my citric acid like quadrupled in price and I couldn't get it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you're always like rethinking. So 2020 was like 21, 22 were like survival mode. How am I going to survive? How am I going to get through this, keep my business running? And I'm just now starting to feel like you can do some of that creative stuff again, like maybe learn a new technique or so I do try to make summer a little research and development, like, can I do a little, try a new product or try a new technique or do something that I have a little bit of time to do and kind of get those creative juices flowing again.
We feel like that this year, that this has been the first year since we launched, because we launched, 6 weeks before COVID. This has been the first year where we're like, what else do we want? Like, maybe we could do something else, because for the longest time, like
your head down, you're going.
Well, and not only that, but you can't get anything. So it's like, oh, that's a cool idea. I can't get those jars. Can't get whatever. You know what I mean? So we'll revisit that some other day. So now.
And one of the big things, like your story and some of the other stories that we've been sharing on this podcast, it's just like, it just reminds people that every store that has a name has people behind it.
Yeah,
it's
like, so true.
This is like, these are people. These are their livelihoods. This is what they're doing. And working through all these issues to be able to serve the community and to serve their guests that come in all the time. It's to buy soap and pet the dog and all those awesome things. So if people want to connect with you, where can they find you? Social media, website, and then about store hours and address too.
So we are on Instagram and Facebook, Splash Bombs 17, the year we started. I was like, that'll be easy to remember. And then on TikTok as well, that has, it's like there's always something new. as a small business owner, I'm like, what? Now I have to TikTok? I'm
to get
like,
on Threads?
good grief. Oh, Threads. I'm not doing that. I have to draw the line. But I'm like, oh, there's always something new. I'm like, shoot. So we're on all the social media except Threads. And then we're downtown Moline, and people always say, where are you located? And I'm like, we're kind of an island. We're on 17th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue. There's nothing really by us per se, but we're between like the Bass Street Landing and up from Stony Creek.
Is the flower shop still across the street from you? Are they still open?
No flower shop.
No flower shop. Okay.
And so, we're kind of...
You're there by yourself.
So usually we put a little bubble machine out, and that usually attracts attention. People are like, oh, I saw the bubbles downtown Moline. And so I came in.
Right?
Exactly. They're like, oh, this is fun. We'll have people come take pictures, drive around. So
that's like when you were doing the bathtub, moving that around. That was such a cool...
we actually have plans to do, because that was when we were still in Rock Island. And we're like, we need to get... we loved Rachel. She was our employee for several years as she went through Augie, and she was amazing. And she was amazing, gorgeous model. But we're like, we need to do that again and do some new things. So that is in the works for a day that is not like 1 billion degrees.
Yes.
And we have some ideas of places in the Quad Cities we're going to lug that tub to. So
I love it.
That'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, that's great.
Yeah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, guys. This was so fun. And it was fun just to catch up.
I know, totally.
As a business owner, you can't.
I know.
It's so hard to
get your hubby on here, too.
Get outside of
share
here.
His story as well.
That would be awesome. He has a good story.
Cool, yeah. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for watching and listening to this week's episode. Make sure that you hop on YouTube and all social media and subscribe, comment, connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you on the next podcast.